If you step back and look at what just happened between Ottawa and Washington, you will not see a negotiation. You will not see a compromise being quietly stitched together behind closed doors. You will see a detonation. For decades, the United States treated Canada's natural resources the way you treat tap water. You turn the faucet, it flows. You never think about where it comes from. You never say thank you. And you certainly never imagine someone shutting it off. But as of this morning, someone's hand is on the valve. Donald Trump thought he could squeeze Canada on defense spending. He thought he could humiliate Mark Carney at a NATO summit and pay no price. He thought wrong, because Carney didn't respond with a press release. He didn't respond with a sternly worded letter. He responded with the one word that makes every Pentagon official, every tech CEO, and every electric vehicle manufacturer in America lose sleep at night: minerals. Critical minerals. The kind you need to build fighter jets, semiconductors, EV batteries, and missile guidance systems. The kind that China dominates. The kind that Canada has in staggering, almost incomprehensible quantities. And the kind that Mark Carney just threatened to redirect away from the United States and toward the rest of the world. Trump is scrambling. The Pentagon is alarmed. And Wall Street just got a lesson in geography it will never forget. In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you exactly what Carney did, why it's more dangerous than any tariff, and why this single move could permanently reshape who controls the 21st century economy. So let's cut through the noise. Here is exactly what happened in the last 72 hours. It started, as these things always do, with a provocation. President Trump was at a NATO leaders meeting in The Hague. The official agenda was collective security and burden sharing. The unofficial agenda was Trump asserting dominance over every leader in the room. And now the safety was off. Let me show you the receipts, because this isn't theater. This is math, and the math should terrify Washington. Receipt number 1. The mineral dependency nobody talks about. The United States imports over 50% of its supply for 31 critical minerals. For 14 of those minerals, the U.S. is 100% import dependent. Where do those minerals come from? Many of them come from Canada. We're talking about nickel, cobalt, lithium, potassium, uranium, aluminum, zinc, rare earth elements. These are not luxury goods. These are the building blocks of the modern American economy. You cannot build an F-35 without Canadian nickel. You cannot manufacture a semiconductor without Canadian-grade aluminum. You cannot build a single Tesla battery pack without cobalt and lithium that flows across the northern border. When Carney said we'll sell elsewhere, he wasn't making a rhetorical point. He was identifying the load-bearing wall of the American industrial base and putting his hand on a sledgehammer. Receipt number 2. The China trap. This is the part that should keep the Pentagon up at night. Right now, China controls roughly 60% of global rare earth mining and nearly 90% of rare earth processing. The entire Western strategy for reducing dependence on Beijing hinges on one idea: develop alternative supply chains through allied nations. And the single most important allied nation in that strategy is Canada. Canada has the second largest rare earth reserves on the planet. It has the mining infrastructure, it has the political stability, it has the regulatory framework. Every serious critical mineral strategy paper written by the Department of Defense in the last 5 years has Canada listed as partner number 1. And Trump just publicly humiliated that partner on camera at a NATO summit. So what did Carney do? He didn't just threaten to cut off exports. He announced something far more surgical. He announced that Canada is opening accelerated negotiations for a critical minerals partnership agreement with the European Union, Japan, South Korea, and, here is the knife twist, India. Do you see what happened? In one move, Carney positioned Canada not as a vassal state that ships raw materials south, but as a sovereign broker that chooses its customers. He is telling the world, if the United States won't treat us as a partner, we will build new partnerships. And the world is lining up. Brussels responded within hours. The EU Trade Commissioner issued a statement calling Canada an indispensable partner in securing resilient supply chains. Japan's Ministry of Economy followed, then South Korea, then Australia. Carney isn't just retaliating. He is restructuring. He is ripping out the plumbing that has connected the Canadian resource economy to the American industrial machine for half a century, and he is reconnecting it to the rest of the world. Receipt number 3, the market reaction. Within 24 hours of the policy review dropping, here is what happened. Shares of American EV manufacturers dropped between 4% and 7%. Defense contractor stocks wobbled. The price of lithium futures spiked 11%. Nickel futures jumped 8%. And the Toronto Stock Exchange, it rallied. Canadian mining companies, the ones sitting on billions of dollars of critical mineral deposits, saw their stock prices surge. The market is telling you everything you need to know. The money is flowing toward Canada's leverage and away from Trump's bluff. This is not hypothetical pain. This is real money moving in real time because real investors looked at the board and decided that Mark Carney is holding the better hand. So let's talk about Trump, because this is where the story gets ugly. Trump is trapped, and he did it to himself. His entire approach to Canada is built on a single assumption, that Canada has nowhere else to go, that the U.S. is the only customer, that geography is destiny. That assumption was true in 1995. It was mostly true in 2015. It is not true in 2025. The world has changed. Global shipping routes have expanded. Asian demand for raw materials has exploded. Europe is desperate to de-risk from China, and Canada, sitting on a resource base that would make most nations weep with envy, suddenly has options. Carney knows this. He spent years at the Bank of England watching Brexit unfold. He knows what happens when a country assumes its trading partners have no alternatives. He watched the UK make that mistake in real time. He is not going to let Canada be on the wrong side of that lesson. He is going to be the one teaching it. And Trump is doing what he always does when the ground shifts beneath him. He is making noise. He went on Truth Social and called Carney a failed banker and a puppet of Davos. He threatened to impose emergency tariffs on Canadian mining exports. He suggested he might invoke the Defense Production Act to force American companies to stop buying Canadian minerals. Think about that for a second. He is threatening to block American companies from buying the materials they need to build American weapons. He is threatening to sabotage his own defense industrial base because his ego got bruised at a lunch meeting. The Joint Chiefs have not publicly commented, but sources inside the Pentagon say the reaction was, and I quote, absolute disbelief. One senior defense official reportedly told colleagues he's going to sanction our own supply chain because he got embarrassed at NATO. That is where we are. That is the level of strategic thinking coming out of this White House. Meanwhile, Carney is on the phone with every major U.S. ally on the planet, calmly offering them exactly what they need: stable, democratic, rule of law access to the minerals that will define the next industrial revolution. He's not screaming. He's not tweeting. He's selling. And buyers are lining up. Now let me tell you why this is different from every other Trump-Canada fight you've seen. The tariff disputes were painful, but reversible. You can lift a tariff with a phone call. You can adjust a trade deal with a negotiation. But what Carney is doing is structural. He is building new pipelines, not oil pipelines, relationship pipelines. He is signing frameworks with the EU and Asia that will take years to unwind. He is redirecting investment flows. He is encouraging Canadian mining companies to build processing facilities at home instead of shipping raw ore to American smelters. Once those facilities are built, they don't get unbuilt. Once those trade agreements are signed, they don't get unsigned. Once Canadian lithium starts flowing to Hamburg and Osaka instead of Detroit and Houston, it doesn't just flow back because a future president asks nicely. This is permanent damage. This is the kind of economic restructuring that doesn't show up in a single quarter's GDP report. It shows up 10 years later when the United States realizes it lost preferential access to the most resource-rich allied nation on Earth and can't get it back. Trump is burning a bridge that took 70 years to build, and he doesn't seem to understand that nobody is going to rebuild it for him. So where does this go? Let me give you 3 scenarios just like last time. Scenario A. The quiet retreat. Trump's advisors convince him to de-escalate. He stops tweeting about Canada. The tariff threats quietly die. Carney slows down the mineral redirection but doesn't stop it entirely. The U.S. keeps access to Canadian minerals but loses its privileged position. Canada diversifies gradually. This is the best-case scenario for Washington, and honestly the least likely because it requires Trump to swallow his pride. And we all know how that goes. Scenario B, the slow bleed. Trump imposes some tariffs. Carney retaliates with export controls on specific minerals. Not all of them, just enough to cause pain. Lithium shipments slow, nickel deliveries get delayed, American EV factories start missing production targets. The pain builds slowly. Congress starts getting phone calls from CEOs. Republican senators in manufacturing states start sweating. Eventually, 6 months, maybe 9 months down the road, there's a deal. But the deal is worse than what Trump could have had if he just kept his mouth shut in The Hague. This is the most likely scenario, and it's going to cost American consumers and workers real money. Scenario C. The fracture. Trump goes full escalation. He invokes national security powers. He tries to block Canadian mineral exports. Canada responds by accelerating every alternative partnership. Carney flies to Brussels and signs a comprehensive critical minerals treaty with the EU. He flies to Tokyo and does the same. Within 18 months, Canada has effectively reoriented its resource economy away from the United States. The U.S. is forced to depend even more heavily on China for the minerals it needs to compete with China. The irony is so thick you could choke on it. This scenario is unlikely, but 6 months ago, so is everything else that's happened. We are in a world where unlikely is the new normal. Let me leave you with this. The story everyone is telling is about tariffs and trade deficits and political theater. The story nobody is telling is about rocks. About what's in the ground beneath Canadian soil, about who gets to buy it, who gets to process it, and who gets to build the future with it. Mark Carney understood something that Donald Trump still doesn't. In the 21st century, the country that controls the raw materials controls the game. Oil was the weapon of the 20th century. Critical minerals are the weapon of the 21st. And Canada, quiet, polite, boring Canada, is sitting on the largest democratic arsenal of those minerals on the planet. Trump tried to bully the man guarding the vault, and the man guarding the vault just changed the locks. So here's my question for you. Do you think Carney is overplaying his hand, or do you think this is the moment Canada finally stops being America's doormat and starts being a genuine global power? And more importantly, do you think Trump has any idea what he just lost? Drop your take in the comments. I read every single one. If you think this is just about Canada, you're not paying attention. This is about the future of who builds what and who gets left behind. Subscribe, because when the markets open on Monday, you're going to want context. And I'll be here with the receipts. History isn't slowing down. Don't look away.